Hello and welcome to another episode of Life Stuff 101. This is day 8 of the series of mini episodes as part of the Challenging Times Self-Care Challenge. My name is Mio Yokoi. I work as a registered psychotherapist in Toronto, Canada, and also as a coach and supporter to striving, highly sensitive folks everywhere. Before we begin, I'd like to make sure to mention that what I share on this podcast is for general information purposes only and not meant to be specific advice. And for personalized help, questions, or concerns you may have, please consult your doctor or appropriate medical or mental health care provider. Welcome to day 8 of the Challenging Times Self-Care Challenge. We're in a time of some big changes: physical distancing, shelter in place, and self-isolation. And as a therapist and also a fellow human being living through this time in our lives, I wanted to do something to hopefully contribute in some small way. And I've decided to do that by putting together these daily mini episodes called the Challenging Times Self-Care Challenge. The goal here is to give you a little daily something to add a little bit of structure to your day to help with self-care. It's my hope that by building in some time for daily self-care, it might help to support your emotional and mental health during this time. Or even if these daily prompts just serve as distractions for a few minutes in your day, I hope that can be helpful too. And I do also want to make sure to mention in each of these challenge episodes that at this time in our lives, just getting through minute to minute, moment by moment, day to day, in and of itself is a lot. So these daily self-care prompts are here to support you. So this challenge isn't about productivity, it's about self-care. I'll get into a bit more details shortly, but as part of the Day 7 challenge, I was reflecting about this challenge series, and I realized that I don't mention a few things that might potentially be helpful. First, if you'd like to be notified when each of these episodes are uploaded, you can either subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts, or you can also go over to lifestuff101.com/challenge, which is a list of every episode. Also, if I mention any resources during the episodes, they're listed in the show notes, which can be found on each of the episode pages at lifestuff101.com. I'm also working on additional resources for each of the episodes, but they're not quite there yet, but I'll be sure to mention them here when they're ready. And as for accessing each of these episodes on the website, all you need to do is, if you know what day that you'd like to go to, is to go to lifestuff101.com/day whatever. So for this episode, for instance, if you wanted to access the show notes, please go to lifestuff101.com/day 8. Okay, so lastly, thank you for listening, and I hope that you're taking good care. And before we dive into the Day 8 challenge, the Day 7 challenge prompt was: take time to reflect on this past week and also how you were doing at the time of completing the challenge yesterday. Like I mentioned in the Day 7 episode, while we're currently going through this challenging time, it can be enough to just be figuring out how to get through on a daily basis. But without question, this is going to be a time in our lives when we'll look back and recall it as a pivotally significant time in our lives. Taking intentional time to reflect can help ground us in our present experience and what we're going through, and it'll also hopefully provide us with a fuller sense of perspective in the future too. I've had many significant moments and times in my life previously where I was maybe too busy dealing with what was going on that I don't really remember too clearly what the experience was actually like for me. And while it's not possible to completely and fully capture experiences in our subjective memories, taking time to reflect might slow us down enough so that we can have more context and depth to what we remember in the future. Of course, it's also not just about the future. Taking time to stop and reflect on how we're thinking and feeling now might also help to ground us in the now, which is our most current and immediate reality. As an example, as part of my reflective exercise yesterday, I was thinking about my relationship with my own perfectionistic tendencies, specifically in relation to creating these challenge episodes. When I start thinking and feeling too critically about what I'm doing, I get discouraged and start doubting myself. But as I reflected further on it, I realized that my goal for creating these episodes isn't about creating some kind of portfolio piece or something to be curated or critiqued. It's just my little way of trying to help. And by going through the exercise of thinking about my past week, it helped me to regain the perspective of my original goal for this challenge. It helped me to recalibrate my emotional focus to be clear again on my why. Whatever happens going forward, the fact that I started and created these self-care prompts will be part of my memory and experience of this time. And reflecting as I did for the Day 7 challenge helped me to see that. I'd love to know how you made out with Day 7 of the challenge. What were some of the things you noticed as a result of reflecting on the past week? How was it to turn some of that attention on how you were doing as you were reflecting? Please reach out to me on Twitter at LifeStuff101pod, on Instagram at LifeStuff101podcast, or on the website at LifeStuff101.com. Now it's time to get into Day 8. And today's self-care prompt is: identify a physical or digital space or container for a self-care toolkit. Many of the challenges so far have been things that can help to have as part of your self-care toolkit. So whenever you may have a need to practice self-care, these personalized resources will be there for you. The thing is, when you might be feeling low, anxious, depressed, or stressed, it might be difficult to think of the things that can help you. So the idea of building a self-care toolkit is for you to have some tools at the ready. So what's involved in identifying and creating a self-care toolkit? Again, it can be and look like whatever you want it or need it to be. Maybe you'll have a physical container or box that you can put a notebook, sheets of paper, or other items in. Maybe it'll be a sketchbook where you sketch out all the tools that help you. Or it can also be a folder or file on your computer or phone, which has all these resources there for you too. Even if you'd rather have a sketchbook or something digital, I would also recommend having some kind of a physical container at some point too, because there may be some physical objects you might find that can be helpful for self-care. For instance, I have little figurines given to me as gifts that I keep in my toolbox, which helps me feel better when I see them. I also have a little Happiness Is book from when I was a young child in there too. Just having them already there means less work for me when I might really need it. The self-care toolkit can also be thought of as a self-care first aid kit. All the helpful stuff already together in one place. Day 8 of the self-care challenge is identify a physical or digital space or container for a self-care toolkit. Here are your steps for today's challenge. Number 1. Set aside 10 minutes today to dedicate to completing today's self-care prompt. Number 2. Before beginning, take 3 slow breaths. Number 3. Identify a physical container which can house your self-care toolkit, or create a folder or file on your computer or phone where you can save your lists, music, images, and perhaps even a shortcut to playlists. Number 4. Place items in your toolkit. There are previous challenges that can be added, like from Day 2, where you listed out things you'd like to get done, or Day 6, where the prompt was to put together a list of media which brings you joy. And you can also add other items, like pictures, or books, or files, or music to your toolkit. Number 5. Put your toolkit in a handy and easily accessible place. And number 6. End off the exercise by taking 3 slow, deep breaths. I'd love to hear about what's in your self-care toolkit. I'd also like to know how you're doing. Please reach out to me on Twitter at LifeStuff101pod, or on Instagram at LifeStuff101podcast, or on the website at LifeStuff101.com. So that's Day 8 of the Challenging Times Self-Care Challenge. Identify a physical or digital space or container for a self-care toolkit. Thank you for participating in these challenges, and stay tuned tomorrow for Day 9 of the Challenging Times Self-Care Challenge. Until then, please stay safe and in good health wherever you are in the world, and I'll be speaking with you again for day 9 of the Challenging Times Self-Care Challenge real soon.